Hi everybody, I'm Darren Pyefinch. This is Vikki.
Hi.
Hey, Vikki, you alright?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, yeah. We are both here today for the Magic of Achievement podcast. So we're going to be kind of winging it, aren't we?
Basically, yeah, we're just making it up, which is what magic's about, just making it up.
And that's the point, is we're going to talk to you about our experiences, specifically around fitness, health and business. And you might think that's a strange mix, but actually they are very, very closely linked, because in order to get what you want out of your fitness, health and business, you kind of need to understand how to create.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the mindset that comes with it as well, you know. So, and what we want to talk to you about today is like the top 3 struggles that people go through that relate to, you know, you can bring them all in, can't you, to like business, health and life, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So I suppose from my perspective, I've been coaching people for about 8 years now, personal training and online fitness and things like that. And just a little bit of background about myself. I worked in IT for a long time, so I used to basically sit down at a desk, type away, kind of tell people what to do a bit, and then walk over to the desk. And then I'd eat a bit of rubbish at work, and then I'd go on my lunch and I'd have some junk, and then I'd go home and have some junk, and then at the weekend I'd go and have a few beers and a few more beers. And you know what? I very quickly got quite big, and my health wasn't great. And then one day my body packed up and I collapsed. And this was in 2005. And I went down. And I went from Telford in an ambulance to the hospital. They did loads of tests. And in a nutshell, what they found was this. So I was sat in a doctor's surgery. They'd done a raft of tests. And I said to the doc, "What's up?" And the doc turned around and said, and these are the exact words she said. She didn't even turn around and look at me. She went, "You're fat and you smoke." And I'm like, oh.
Thanks
For that. And this is 2005, so, you know, times have changed a bit, and maybe they'd be a bit more kind these days, but this was back then. And I'd spent about a month thinking, that's really cruel, and I'm going to write a letter, and I'm a bit upset, and I'm feeling triggered. And actually, I sat and thought about it. I thought, well, I kind of knew that. I knew that anyway. And then I thought, okay, what does somebody do who's just been told they're fat and smoke and they thought they were going to die? And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to go in a gym. So I walked into a gym. I didn't know what I was doing. I went on the kit. I played around a bit, moved some of the weights, picked random weights, and I got disheartened. And then I thought, okay, I waited another week, and I thought I better go and talk to someone. So I went in there, had a chat with a personal trainer, and luckily this guy was an ex-professional footballer. And Roy Essendar, his name is, for anybody out there who wants to Google him. Really nice guy. And he started teaching me how to use the kit. And then he taught me, and I enjoyed it. But the truth was I wasn't losing much weight. And you know what? That's because he wasn't talking about nutrition, and that's not a reflection of Roy, because he did a great job. His job is literally to teach me how to lift weights, and we did that. And then I started Googling about diets, and I went on Slimming World, Diet Chef, loads of stuff. And I had various success for a bit, and then I put the weight back on, and nothing seemed to quite work for me. And then eventually what I learned was that there's various factors that can stop you losing fat. So things like hormones, things like what you eat, the amount of exercise you do, so you can overtrain and things like that. And in a nutshell, I ended up racing for Great Britain amateur team for triathlon, which it wasn't elite, it wasn't pro, so I'm not making that.
It's amazing, Darren. Don't play it down.
Yeah,
don't let the ego kick in. It was amazing.
Vicky's looking at me because she knows what I'm thinking is my ego then kicked in, going, "Darren, you ain't all that."
That was amazing. Like, that was an amazing achievement. Well, Darren just doesn't want to blow himself up, but that was an amazing achievement.
Well, I did it 5 times, and I've actually just qualified again for Spain in September, and I've had 5 years just coaching and I qualified again for Spain in September.
That's amazing.
But the point is, of the whole story is, my journey has gone up and down like a yo-yo. And, you know, sometimes I've had too many to drink and, you know, you beat yourself up thinking I've put a few pounds back on. But the point I want to make is, and this is what I've learned certainly from Vikki and a few other coaches as well, is the number one reason why people perhaps struggle to lose weight or to get into shape is their ego and is their unconscious beliefs.
Yeah.
What do you think, Vikki?
100%. Yeah, no, 100%. See, I've had a similar health journey. Like, I've had problems with my health, but mine was more of like a mental journey. So, a bit about me. So, since the age of 18, I've worked as like a bookkeeper and then an accountant, and I started my accountancy and bookkeeping business in 2010. But I was always running close to burnout, like constantly doubting myself, constantly. You know, I used to wake up at like 2:00 in the morning, checking my customers' cash flows, you know, constantly worrying about, am I going to fail? Am I good enough? Like, you know, massive imposter syndrome, all of the time. But I didn't realise, I didn't really know anything about mindset training. I'd never, you know, I'd heard of coaches, but it was like something, yeah, whatever. And then in 2016, I thought I'd pulled a muscle in my chest. My cat's house saved my life. Like, and I'm not even joking. I'd bought my cat this like big house, and so my brother carried it. I got it delivered to my dad's. Brother carried it to my car, and because I'm like, you know, an independent woman, I carried it from my car to, like, all the way into my house, and then built the house. And I woke up the following morning, it was Saturday, and I couldn't move my left arm. So I phoned 111 and said to the woman, I just need you to tell me I'm not having a heart attack. Like, I know I'm not having a heart attack, but I just need you to tell me. I mean, she must have been like, what is this planet is this woman on? So anyway, so she sent me to an out-of-hours GP who listened to my heart. And at the time, she said to me, you're not having a heart attack. So that's all I heard, I'm not having a heart attack. But she was like, but there is like a slight murmur there. So we're going to send you for more tests. You know, have like an ultrasound and echo done of your heart, like just to make sure to find out what this murmur is. So anyway, so I went and had like, you know, blood test, went and had the echo. And I remember saying to the woman doing my first echo, saying to her, like, this is such an over and exaggeration. You know, like, I wasn't having a heart attack, everything's fine. And she was like, well, actually, your heart's severely enlarged and your aortic heart valve is leaking. Like, you need to prepare yourself for surgery. So I'm like, okay. And then my GP rang me like the following day, or a couple of days, I think it was, afterwards. And they were like, you know, you need to start preparing yourself for surgery. Like, this is serious. And then I went to see, don't ever go and see a doctor on Halloween. I went to see a private doctor on Halloween that year. So this is in like September. Obviously, October, I go and see this cardiologist. And he's like, oh, there's nothing to worry about. You know, like, we'll just monitor it for the next couple of years, you know, like, go home, don't even think about it. And then 2 weeks later, I'd been getting more and more out of breath. And I was just like, I was smoking at the time, but I was fit. You know, I had like a 6-pack. I was doing the insanity workouts. But whereas like before I could do the workouts and do the whole workout, I was so out of breath. Like, I'd do the workout and literally I'd be like laying on the floor, like, you know, and I'm like, and at this point I've been doing these workouts for like 2 or 3 years. I should have been fit, you know, but it just never registered there was something wrong. And then I'd woken up one day, gone into one of my customers, and it took me probably 20 minutes to get up the stairs. So I phoned my GP, when you could get through to the GP. I phoned my GP and said to her, you know, I think I've got a chest infection. Am I okay to use Vicks on like my chest, obviously, because of everything going on with my heart? And she was like, I need you to come down to the surgery now. So I was like, okay, I'm in like North Finchley, you know. So I drove back to Bushy to go to the surgery, and she wanted to call an ambulance. She was like, you need to go to hospital like now. And I was like, no, I'm going to take my car. And this is where mindset, because the whole time I was in hospital, You know, I was like, I didn't want my car. I was like, my car needs to stay in the car park because as soon as they sort my breathing out, I'm going home because my cat's at home on its own. And then obviously I spent like 6 weeks in hospital and had open heart surgery. But even having the surgery, I was I was working from hospital, you know, and this is why I was so caught up in the day-to-day in my business. I wasn't even aware of, like, you know, I was killing myself. Like, but then I was so the whole way through the surgery, I wasn't thinking I'm having heart surgery. I was like, I just need to get home. Like, you just need to fix me so I can go home. And then afterwards, with all the tests and everything else, I started telling myself, I'm a heart patient. I can't work out. I'm a heart patient. I can't push myself. I'm a heart patient, you know?
Yeah.
And that went on for 4 years to the point I was so ill. I was worse than I was before I even had the surgery, you know? But in the middle of that, my dad died in 2018. And I was just like, things need to change. Like this, you know? It was like a massive shock, and that's how I ended up getting into like coaching, because I was like, I need to change myself, you know, and no intention of ever becoming a coach. But then February 2020, I got told I needed to have heart surgery again. Like, thankfully for me, March happened and everything just got cancelled.
Yeah.
And then I did Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within, and he was talking about the stories that we tell ourselves, you know, like our ego. And I was like, I've made it all up.
Yeah.
You know, I've been so focused on what's wrong with me, and I'm ill, and not to push myself, and then add in all of the stress I was under with work, you know, like not working probably with like the best people I could have been working with. And it was just, I was making myself ill. But obviously, you know, the realization of I've made it all up, and then actually getting to a point where I didn't, you know, like my heart scans have been better like every year since doing like Tony Robbins training.
Yeah.
But it was just, like we make it all up.
So that's kind of the background of me and Vikki, but I think it's the first major point that, you know, anybody listening to this podcast will be looking at is you've all been on your own journey. You've all done things that have worked and things that haven't, but I think the overriding thing that the Vikki talks about and then I talk about is understand that you may be putting barriers in place to getting your own success, whether it's with your business or your fitness and health. And I think the first thing to look at is, let me give you an example. So I spoke to someone the other day. They told me they wanted a coach to help them get into shape. And they said that they were carrying too much weight. They needed help looking at their nutrition. They wanted somebody who could help them understand what weights to lift, what cardio to do, things like that. And we're going all the way through the call. And at the end of it, I relayed back that I do all of that and I've been through that journey and I would be probably a good fit for that person. Now, obviously, they've got the right to talk to as many coaches as they like and they don't have to pick me. But it was interesting, the bit where the person decided it wasn't right for them was I explained where I did my coaching and they said it was 5 miles away. And they'd clearly got an unconscious belief saying, if it doesn't fit an exact time when I must train and it's not exactly where I need to be, I'm not going to do it. Yeah,
but without even realising it.
So they'd already said that they were going to do it. They were happy with the price, happy with all the other things, but it didn't. There was one thing: it wasn't in the exact location, in the exact time. And I've been that person, and I've had this unconscious set of beliefs going, if it's not exactly what I want, then I'm going to sabotage my own success and go away thinking that didn't work.
Yeah. But then you start telling yourself, don't you? You start justifying it to yourself, because the thing is, like, unconsciously we're setting ourselves up to fail by putting those sorts of conditions on. It has to be this way for it to work. It's like subconsciously, and not even, you think how much work we've both done, and we still have our own crap.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like so it's like we set ourselves up unconsciously these like unreachable conditions, because then when those conditions can't be met, we can tell ourselves, well, it never would have worked anyway. Like, it wouldn't have worked. You know, that's not right for me.
And I find it interesting because I watch a program with my wife, which I'm sure millions of people out there, well, I know for a fact millions watch it. The Married Australia thing. And
I haven't seen that.
I've never seen it. It's ace. It's really good. And loads of people into it. Well, if you've not seen it, essentially,
I'll have a look. You know?
what they do, they've got these three experts, and they will put together people who perhaps on paper wouldn't pick each other, but looking at the data and looking at the things that they need, they actually need each other, right? And you see it all the time where somebody will go in, and what they do, they will get married at first sight. So it's called Married at First Sight. And the idea is they will be paired with someone, and you can see them in real time thinking of reasons why they shouldn't be with that person. And so for example, somebody will say, oh, they don't look exactly how I want, or they don't act how I want, or in this situation they did this. And so unconsciously they're sabotaging every chance of success, but they don't realise why.
Yeah, they're like writing it off before it's even happened, you know, because you can meet someone and think, oh, they're not that good looking, and then you get to know them and they're like the most beautiful, you know, person ever because of what's inside.
Yeah. And it's the same with, you know, with business is somebody will say, well, I've got a permanent job, and if I decide to do some self-employment or some side gig, this will happen. I won't earn enough money.
Do you know what? I had someone call me a couple of weeks ago. So he's got a full-time job, but he wants to set a business up on the side. So we were on the phone like a good hour talking about, you know, what the business is. So I said to him, okay, so what have you done? You know, and he's like, when I was like, what about, and he's like, well, I just don't have the time. Because I was like, what's the biggest thing stopping you from like going ahead with this? And he's like, well, I don't have the time. And I was like, okay, well, what do you do in the evenings? Oh, no, I don't want to give up my free time in the evenings. I was like, okay, well, what about the weekends? Oh, no, I don't want to sabotage my weekends. And I said to him, that right there, you're thinking like an employee, and you'll never get your business off the ground.
Yeah. And it's exactly the same with fitness, isn't it?
Yeah.
And health is, and the truth is, and you know, there's an expression from where I'm from called "you can't kid a kidder," and we all know that when I'm watching Married Australia thing with my wife, don't get me wrong, it's good. I enjoy watching it, and it's an hour. But actually, I could be hitting the phones. I could be setting up a Facebook campaign. I could be doing more work to increase my business so that I get more out of my life. But the truth is, I quite like watching it with
and it's time with your wife.
It's time with my wife.
Yeah.
But the point is, somebody who is in a job that's either not fulfilling, or they don't have enough money, or they don't like their boss, or whatever it is, to use that as an excuse to sabotage your own business. Don't beat yourself up while you do it, because we all do it.
Oh, 100%.
But just start recognising what's really happening.
Yeah.
Is that you've got this unconscious belief that you can't see, and it's not real.
Yeah. It's like you've got this unconscious belief that you've got no time. And the thing is, when you're going back to the guy who can't drive 5 miles because you know it won't fit into like his lunch break, like he's got that unconscious belief that he hasn't got the time to do it. But then, you know, like you said, we were laughing about it earlier, we'll all spend, you know, 4 or 5 hours in front of Netflix a night, and then, you know, lay in bed until 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and then we're saying like we've got no time. And the thing is, I think with like health and, you know, with business and health, it's like, you know, it's only, okay, we're all going to have ups and downs, and none of us are perfect. And I think the people that say, you know, like they're perfect and everything else, like it's not real world, like it's not sustainable working every evening and every weekend, you know. But actually, for like a little bit of extra work to start off with, you know, and if you think of it I'm going to spend the next 12 months or 2 years just focused on like my health, focused on my business. And every day I'm just going to take a little bit, you know, I want to move forward every day. It takes that pressure off of I'm having to like sabotage my free time, or I don't have enough time to be able, or this isn't going to, you know, work for me. I suppose it's like confronting, isn't it? Like when those things start coming up and you find yourself, and listen, I'm bad for this, like, you know, and you find yourself like justifying things, like, oh, you know, that wouldn't have worked, or it's like, okay, like where is this coming from?
Yeah. And that's definitely, certainly the stuff that me and Vikki have been learning through William Whitecloud's. He's a guy from New Zealand. He's a real character.
Yeah, no. So he's originally from Africa.
Is he okay, right, okay. I think he's got some link to New Zealand.
Yeah, and Australia, and he lives in America now.
But he essentially, he's a bit different to a lot of the... what I'd class as guru type. He wouldn't use the word guru, but
I wouldn't be happy.
No, he wouldn't. Sorry, William, you're not a guru. You know, there's various ones on YouTube, on the internet, and what they'll do is they'll talk about. I see quite a few on Instagram actually, and they'll say, right, what we want you to do is, there was this one particular one. She was telling people, come to the Colombian jungle or something, meet some shaman. They're going to do various things, and then they're going to cleanse your beliefs. And you're going to be a blank slate, and you're going to come out of there, and you're going to attract all the wealth, all the whatever you want, right?
Well, it's like we don't put. So you get a glass of water. I'm saying this without laughing. So you get a glass of water. And you put the water on the windowsill at the full moon, and then that's going to bring you loads of money. So all you have to do is like sit in a dark room with your glass of water.
I'm going to try that.
I'm getting rich. £1 million is coming to me. Like, you need to take action to make that happen. You know.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I'm not slagging off these people on Instagram and YouTube, and you know, I'm sure they're well-meaning, but the truth is, life is not that easy, and I think what Whitecloud talks about is get real. And, you know, this is not voodoo. It's not witchcraft. It's actually based on solid science. So if you research Carl Jung, he kind of, if you talk, you know, Google Freud, Carl Jung, this is stuff that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, and even alchemy as well. It's like centuries old. You know, when you think all of like science, astrology, most personal development come from strings of alchemy, you know, like different, I can't think what the word is, but different
traditions,
like alchemical, it comes from alchemy. It's not like woo-woo, you know, made up stuff. It's actually like tried and tested, and I found William in February. I found his book in February last year, and I can honestly say the last, like, coming up to year and a half has been like tough. There's been tough because it's the first time I've ever actually openly and honestly confronted, you know, like where I can be dysfunctional. But it's been the most transformative time of my life.
Yeah. And so I suppose to wrap up for that first one, all we're saying is next time you're offered an opportunity or there's going to be some, you know, you're watching this podcast for a reason. You're thinking, okay, how can I make my life better? How can I be fitter, stronger, healthier, have more
better business, yeah.
You know, think about what is it that, I don't know, when you're having a bath or when you're just about to go to sleep or just waking up, there's going to be something that pops into your head thinking, that's what I want to do. And that's the bit that we're kind of talking about is don't, and I always point to my left shoulder, I don't know why, but I always point to this ego character on my left shoulder. This ego character is going, yeah, you're not really going to Hawaii. You're not going to do this.
Or Texas.
We're going to chat about Texas in a sec. The truth is that's your ego pulling you back to safety going, you don't, that life ain't for you. It's for the people on Instagram. But
it's becoming aware of it, you know. So it's like when you are like in the bath or out walking, you know, or that period where, you know, where you're just waking up and you're having those ideas, and in that space in time you're excited about it, you know, it's like I could really do this. And then it's when your ego kicks in, acknowledging, like just stopping in that moment and asking yourself, like, where's this coming from, you know, like where is this coming from, like why am I thinking like this about myself? Because you're going to be like your biggest critic, but you're also going to be, you know, the only one that holds you back.
Okay, so that's the first one done. We're going to chat about the second one now. So the second one, for me, is one of the biggest reasons why people don't progress with their health and fitness and business, definitely, is do the basics well, right? And so I'm what's called a bulletproof coach. And I spent a whole year back in 2018 learning from doctors, from people with very strong scientific backgrounds around the mechanics of getting fit and well. And the first one we've touched on, which is ego and emotions and things like that. But the second one is, are you doing the basics? So in order to get your health and fitness correctly, I would say the number one thing that you might want to think about is easing off on the booze. And it's very interesting. I've coached hundreds of people, and this is from somebody who, when I drink, I have quite a few. So I'm not one of these people who stopped drinking totally, and I'm not some kind of monk. But consistently, when I've coached people, is their mindset is they'll come and they'll go, okay, I'm going to do my 3 hours a week in the gym. I'm going to eat well Monday to Friday. But you know what? When Friday, 7 o'clock comes, I've worked hard all week. I'm going to crack open the Prosecco or the beer. And then what's really happening is, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? We're all allowed a beer, a Prosecco, a pizza, whatever it is. But they'll have the takeaway. And then Saturday morning comes and they're feeling a bit rough. And they think, you know what? I'm going to have a fry up. And then Saturday lunch comes and they think, I'm going to open a pack of Doritos.
Oh, biscuits.
All biscuits. And this is from somebody who can do a whole pack of hobnobs in one sitting. I'll let you into a little secret, right? So, sometimes when I drive to see my son, and I'll go from Milton Keynes to Longheath, which is in between Derby and Nottingham, and I'll stop at this one garage.
Do you want to be sharing this?
I have to. I feel I have to. And I'll get some petrol, right? And it's calling me. The pack of hobnobs is calling me, and I'm looking at it, and I've got it, and it's chocolate hobnobs, and I'll sit in the car and I'll have the whole lot.
Yeah.
Right? And you might think that's mental.
But you know what? At least you're real, you know, and you're honest. But like, we all do stuff like that.
And I do it. And the truth is, and I've worked with a lot of people, and it's interesting when you see people open up and they go, you know what? I do something. I go, tell me, what is it you do? And they'll go, I'll go to the garage and I'll get a Ginsters.
I love the cheese and onion ones.
Yeah. And I'll get a Ginsters. I'll get a bag of crisps, and I'll get a Coke, and I'll get a bar of chocolate, and I'll go, you know what? Well done. Thank you. You've been honest. And don't hide it. It is what it is. And there's a reason why those garages stop that stuff. It's because people buy it. And so I suppose the point is, accept that you do certain things like that. Number one, don't beat yourself up about it. But skipping back, so where are we going? We're on Saturday afternoon now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right, so you have a takeaway.
But just thinking about, you know, like hiding it. It's like when there's so much work on, you know, like I suppose that in society, like you have to be this certain person, and then with your limiting beliefs, it's like, well, you know, you eliminate them and ignore them, and the more you ignore them, the worse it gets. And it's the same, you know, with that. Just be honest about it.
And that's the thing is, I do it, right, and I know millions of people do it, and the truth is, I'll have it, and afterwards I'm thinking, I shouldn't have done that. I'm a coach, I'm a personal trainer, I should be perfect, and then it's that feeling of, I've let myself down. And actually, if you just let it go, it doesn't matter, right? But what I suppose the point of the story is, let's go back to that Friday evening decision, right? So what would happen if you didn't have that beer or Prosecco then? What's really happening is, so did you know this, but if you have alcohol, your body takes 2 days to process that alcohol. And you cannot burn fat whilst alcohol's in your system. So even if you skimp and have hardly anything the next day, your body cannot burn fat while alcohol's in the system because it's a toxin and a poison that your body's got to get rid of. All right? And so I'm not going to be all, you must quit alcohol, otherwise you'll never lose weight, because that's not true. But what I would say is for a lot of people who are trying to lose weight and get their health back, think about what would it be like if I had 3 months off? And let that sit with you and think, what would really happen? And actually, when you start unpacking it, it's very interesting. So a lot of people think, okay, well, that means I'm not going to go out with my friend and see him that night. And therefore, if I don't see that friend, subconsciously, unconsciously, you're thinking, I'm going to be lonely, right? And you might also be thinking, well, I've worked hard all week and I'm going to kick back and have my drink. My reward, right? And you may have earned it, and nobody's saying you haven't. But think about your start point. If your health and fitness is not working for you, what's more important? Is it that you have that drink, or is it that you maybe sacrifice some pleasure for a bit and actually get the greater reward, which is good health and fitness? Okay? And I'm sure it's the same with business. Is, people... what kind of things should people be doing as the basic in order to build their business?
So with the basics, obviously cash flow, and cash flow is, is
my favourite.
Oh, it's not just you; it's the one thing everyone I work with. As soon as I mention cash flow and financial goal settings, it's when I get massive pushback. Everyone, you can see people want the ground to swallow them up, but actually, there's like simple tools you can use to just make sure you're like working for profit. It doesn't have to be that difficult, but then money's that one conversation that, we all need money. And obviously, but it's that one conversation that brings up every, guilt, shame, if we've got like a credit card debt, or, we haven't got like £5,000 in the bank as a business owner, there's something wrong with us. It's such a load of crap. I've got credit cards, And I'm an accountant and a business coach, and I do this for people. Like, I still have to manage my cash flow. So I'd say cash flow is one of those, and financial goal setting is like one of those things. It can bring up so much stuff, because then it goes on, you're setting financial goals, and it's like, well, I don't want to be greedy, because we live in this thing where we should give everything away for free, or you shouldn't ever talk about money. Like, it should always be, about like what you're offering. And I completely agree with that. It should be about what you're offering. But if you can't keep the roof over your head, or pay your bills, or actually be able to go on a holiday, why are you running a business? Like, just go and work for someone. It is about the money. Like, but it brings up. So I would say cash flow, and then also.
Just going on about cash flow. So, how do people make sure that their business has got enough cash flow and their personal life is not affecting that? It's the same as the alcohol thing, and it's the same as the hobnobs. Yeah,
because it is. You get paid, and especially when you're a single, like a single director owner, or like a sole trader, it's very blurred, isn't it? Because you get paid, and you're always borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, and I do this, especially like, I run 2 businesses. I'm building my coaching business up. Like, there's months, where it's a struggle, but I've created that, like, always getting to the end of the month and just having enough. But one thing I would say is one of the biggest things, and is, especially sole traders and one-man business owners, or one-woman business owners, so one-person business owners, is not charging for your time. So I'll speak to like a hairdresser, and they're like, okay, I charge £100 for a haircut and colour. The colour costs me £40, £20 in fuel. I'm making, £40 profit. And I'm like, great. How many hours were you there? And they're like, oh, well, no, it's nearly a whole day, like 6 or 7 hours. So I'm like, so you've worked 6 or 7 hours for £40, Whereas actually, when you work out, okay, this is how much the products cost to be able to do what you're going to do. These are like travel time, fuel, what else are you paying out in your business? Like allocate some of that to your costs and then charge yourself out as a cost to your business, and that's where I think most people go wrong. And also it's not greedy to want to earn more. It's not greedy to sit and do that exercise and go, sometimes you might do that exercise and you've always been buying your materials from Bob down the street, and Bob down the street is actually like 5 times more expensive than someone else, and you could go and get a trade discount, or you might find that, and this is like confidence, this is something I struggled with. I mean, literally I was like the cheapest accountant going because I had such low confidence. I didn't think, I charged, it was so uncomfortable having that conversation of what my fees were. I always used to bring my fees down, So it's like, it's getting comfortable. Your price is what it is. That's it. It is what it is. And I think it helps when you've done that breakdown because you're like, actually, it is what it is. You're not thinking, well, I could reduce the £40 profit down to £20 profit, but then you're working 6 hours for £20. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah, no. Whether it's across health and fitness or business, I think number one, get professional help. So chat to somebody who can help you understand what you should be charging,
and have a look around as well. But also, I suppose it's like when you go to start discount, when you were saying like on the Friday night when you have that first drink, like before you have that first drink, just stopping and thinking, okay, if I was to spend the next 3 months and not have a drink. So in your business, when you go to like half, 50% off your services, it's like just stop in that moment and think, if I was to spend the next 3 months in my business focusing on thriving and not just surviving, and actually this is what my price is, it is what it is. Like, what difference would that make in your business in 3 months?
Yeah, definitely. Right, that brings us on to number 3.
Yes.
So number 3, I think for me, and I know Vikki thinks this as well, is dare to dream. So I'm not going to spend an awful... This is a teaser for the next podcast, but I'm just going to start with a little bit. So skip back 2005. I've collapsed. I'm in hospital, blah, 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 right? I spent the next year learning about, gyms and diets and all the rest of it. And I was very lucky. Somebody says, why don't you start? I did a bit of boxing and I got knocked out and that hurt, so I'll leave that one.
Yeah, no thanks.
I couldn't.
I was only going to take you back to hospital.
I trained 5 days a week. I got dead fit and I got smacked. I was in Covent Garden. I was in the ring and I got belted and I got floored. And I thought, okay, I need to do something as energetic but not as dangerous. So somebody said, why don't you go for a run? And I went for a run and I did a 5K in 25 minutes, which for your first one's not bad. And someone says, oh, you're all right at this? And because I'd been coached by the PT guy, Roy, somebody said, go and get a coach. And I did. And the point of the story was I was working with a triathlon coach. He just happened to be the age group world champion. Really nice guy called Nick in Nottingham. And he gave me probably the biggest gift anybody's ever gave me, because I did a few triathlons and I got okay at it. And he said, why don't you go and try and compete for the World Championships in New Zealand in 2012? And I went, what? And he went, yeah, there's an amateur version of the World Championships. You've still got to be good enough. You've got to compete and you've got to go for qualifying races. And I said, that's crazy. And he went, what if you could?
Yeah.
And I stopped and I thought, well, why not? And then
it's
all
that
of it,
question, isn't it?
And once you start, and this is the thing, right? I'm not genetically gifted. I'm not. There's loads of faster runners in Milton Keynes. There's loads of faster runners in the UK, faster cyclists. But the point is, you got to be in it to win it. And once you stop and think, what if I could? And you know what? I trained and trained and trained. I sacrificed everything, and I went for it, and I ended up there.
That's amazing.
And I was very lucky. I didn't have any money. My friends and family helped me, and I got there. And I ended up in New Zealand, and I was there on my own, and I finished 37th in my age group in the world. And to me, it was such an amazing time for me. But I think the point is, if you allow yourself to dream and have this dream, it can come true.
Yeah,
reckon,
but I think it's like, I mean, just first off, that's amazing, Darren. Like,
yeah,
it is amazing.
You know, and there's going to be people out there listening, thinking, yeah, well, I know someone. In fact, well, you do.
Yeah, but it's not. But the thing is, it's like, do you know what? You were like, I'm going to do this, and then you put the work in, and like you made it happen. Because I think. And I've like, listen, I have big dreams, which we're going to talk about, you know, like, and it's a mad dream. We'll talk about it in like the next podcast. But as soon as you start thinking big, you know, it's like when you're telling people about it, what happens is all of a sudden all of their fears start coming up, and it's easy for them to project their fears onto you because they would never do that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like where you were doing that, and then people would be like, well, you know, like all you were saying about, you know, some people listening might know people who have gone and done it, or people that have trained from a kid to do it, or, you know, so those people could have said to you, well, you know, you've only just started training, like you're not good enough. You know, and if you'd listened to them, you never would have done it.
And that's the thing, you know, you get some people who are really, really supportive and they've been brilliant. And other people are like, yeah, well, there's faster people.
Or what about this? What if this goes wrong? You know?
Oh, well, I know someone faster. And then all of a sudden your ego kicks in and you think, yeah, they're right. Yeah, there is someone faster than me. And there's a better personal trainer. And
you start doubting yourself.
You start doubting yourself. And actually, all I say to everybody is, what could happen if you... So I've coached a lady and she had to get below a certain weight limit to do a parachute jump. And she came to me, she said, look, I've booked it, I'm going. And I went, you're kidding? And she went, yeah. And she told me, and it was about 2 stone she had to lose. And we did it together. And she actually sent me a video of her parachuting out of a plane.
That's amazing.
And it was amazing because she got that such strong belief. And it wasn't a case, she had to do it, otherwise she'd lose the money.
But do you know what? I've seen this in business where, and these are 2 actual businesses, but I'm going to change some of the details, confidentiality. So the first business lost a big customer. It was a big customer overnight. And straight away they were saying to me, I'm not coming back from this. I'm not, you know, in their mind, they'd written their business off, like just because that one customer. And then gradually, the business was coming back up. They put the business into administration. The next business lost 70% of their income like that when the pandemic hit. They were still having to pay the suppliers, like, you know, staff costs and everything else, furlough helped. But that business owner, there was, you know, no matter what, he was going to make that business work. Now, when you look at those 2 businesses from the outside, the first business should have succeeded, the second business should have failed, you know. But that the second business owner was just like, I've got a dream for my business. He actually took that bad opportunity as, you know, how can I move into like different areas that I never would have thought of before. You know, he like gave himself permission to dream, and now he's having like better years now than he's ever had in like the whole 20 years of like the business, you know. And that's where if you like really believe and you keep that excitement going, anything's possible. But it's so easy, isn't it, for like our, you know, imposter syndrome to kick in, or we start doubting ourselves, and before we know it, our dreams started here, and then we've just shrunk it a little bit, and then before we know it, we've talked ourselves out of like, you know, what we really, really want, because we've listened to our ego and convinced ourselves it's not possible.
Yeah. So what we're going to do you might be thinking, why is there an image of Texas in the background of what we're looking at? And you know what? We're going to leave that as a teaser for the next podcast, because we're going to go through Vikki's dream and exactly how she's not manifested it. She's not put a glass of water in it.
No, it did start with an idea, but that's how everything, everything in this room started with an idea. And I'm going to make it happen. Like we'll talk to you about it.
We'll talk to you about it. And at first you think, yes, I love it. And when Vikki told me, I was like, oh, that just sounds so cool.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
So keep looking at that picture.
Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe as well.
Yes, you must subscribe. And if you
the magic of achievement.
If you like listening to us talk and share it with your friends, and we're going to share lots of experiences of people we've worked with, and the things you got to do to get what you want in life, in your health, in your fitness, and your business.
Yeah, and tools that we've used, that we're using, like in our lives, in our businesses, like personally, that we know work. We want to share them with you so you can check it out. We're like adding to your toolbox.
That's the thing, yeah. It's the toolbox. That's what we're going to teach you all about. So thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching and listening.
Bye-bye.